You sit at a desk. A teacher stands at the front. You take notes. You memorize facts. You wait for a bell to ring. This feels normal. This feels like the only way learning has ever worked. But the real answer is far stranger. For more than 95% of human history, there were no desks, no bells, no teachers standing at the front of a room, and yet children still became fully capable adults, carrying enormous amounts of knowledge in their heads. How? Your ancestors did not go to school. They went to the fire. Picture a Hadza camp in northern Tanzania, or a Kung settlement in the Kalahari Desert. As the sun drops, families gather around a small flame. Children sit close. Adults begin to speak. Not lectures, stories, tales about a trickster jackal, a foolish hyena, a clever child who outsmarts a lion. The children listen. They laugh. They ask questions whenever they want. This was the classroom. The story was the lesson plan. Anthropologist Sheina Lew-Levy, who has spent years studying Hadza and Bayaka children, found something the modern world rarely expects. Young children in these communities spend up to 50% of daytime hours playing. Not memorizing, not drilling, playing. And inside that play, almost every survival skill gets rehearsed. A child swings a stick like a spear. A child stacks rocks like a fire pit. A child mimics an adult digging for tubers, badly at first, then less badly, then perfectly. Nobody assigns this. Nobody grades it. The lesson hides inside the game. Here is the part that surprises most people. Direct teaching, an adult explicitly instructing a child step by step, was rare. Researchers who studied teaching behavior in hunter-gatherer societies, including work led by anthropologist Barry Hewlett among the AKA people of Central Africa, found that explicit instruction made up only a small fraction of how children learned skills like foraging or tool use. Most learning happened through something else entirely. Observation, imitation, participation. A child watched an older sibling weave a basket, said nothing. Tried it alone the next day, failed, tried again. An adult never stopped to say, first you do this, then you do that. The child absorbed the sequence by watching it dozens of times, the way you absorb a song after hearing it enough times to sing it without ever memorizing the words on purpose. Why does this matter to you? Because your brain is still wired for this kind of learning, not lectures, apprenticeship. Think about the last time you really learned something new. Maybe it was riding a bike, maybe it was cooking a dish from a parent. Chances are, nobody handed you a worksheet. Somebody let you try, watched you fail, and let you try again. That ancient rhythm never left you. It just got buried under centuries of chalkboards. There is a deeper layer here, and it involves something almost shocking. Anthropologists call it the teaching paradox. Humans are the only species that teaches in a deliberate, sustained way across generations. Chimpanzees show their young how to crack nuts, but the demonstrations are brief and inconsistent. Humans, by contrast, built entire systems of multi-generational knowledge transfer. So why did early human education look so playful, so unstructured, compared to what evolved later? The answer lies in what children actually needed to know. A hunter-gatherer child needed to learn an enormous, almost staggering range of skills. Tracking animals, reading weather, identifying which plants heal and which plants kill, building shelter, reading social cues inside a tight-knit group where cooperation meant survival. No single subject mattered more than another because life itself was the only curriculum. Compare that to what came later. After agriculture took hold roughly 12,000 years ago, suddenly societies needed something new. Surplus food meant some people no longer had to spend every hour hunting or gathering. Specialized roles emerged. Scribes, priests, administrators, and specialized roles required something hunter-gatherer life never demanded. Standardized, repeatable instruction for skills nobody could simply absorb by playing near a fire. This is where things shift dramatically. In ancient Mesopotamia, around 2500 BCE, archaeologists have uncovered something close to the first formal schools, called edubba, literally tablet house. Children, mostly boys from wealthy families, sat in rows and copied cuneiform symbols onto clay tablets, over and over for hours. Discipline was severe. Some surviving tablets even contain a student's complaint about being beaten for poor handwriting. Suddenly, learning had a building, a schedule, a punishment system. The fire circle had been replaced by something colder, more rigid, and far more familiar to you. Ancient Egypt followed a similar path. Scribes trained for years inside temple schools, memorizing thousands of hieroglyphic signs through repetition that would feel brutal by today's standards. In ancient Sparta, education turned children over to the state entirely by age 7, training them for endurance, obedience, and combat. In ancient Athens, by contrast, education leaned toward philosophy, rhetoric, music, recitation of Homer. Different cultures, wildly different goals, but all of them sharing one new ingredient that hunter-gatherer life never required: structure for its own sake. Here is the counterintuitive twist. The shift from play-based, observation-based learning to rigid, structured learning was not really about making children smarter. It was about making societies controllable. A scribe who could read uniform symbols could manage tax records for an empire. A soldier trained under harsh discipline could follow orders without hesitation. Formal education, almost from its very beginning, served the needs of growing power structures, not just the needs of growing minds. So when you sat in rows as a child, copying letters onto paper, you were participating in a tradition that stretches back to clay tablets in Mesopotamia, not to your deepest evolutionary instincts. Your evolutionary instincts wanted the fire circle. Your civilization needed the tablet house. Does that mean the old way was better? Not entirely. Hunter-gatherer education produced incredibly capable, well-rounded survivors, but it could not produce astronomers, engineers, or anyone capable of building a cathedral or decoding a genome. Structured education unlocked specialization, and specialization unlocked almost everything you call modern civilization. But something got lost along the way, too. Psychologist Peter Gray has spent decades studying what he calls the decline of play in modern childhood, comparing it to the deeply playful learning environments seen in foraging societies. His research links the steep decrease in unstructured, self-directed play among children since the mid-20th century to rising rates of anxiety and depression in young people. The fire circle, it turns out, was not just charming. It may have been psychologically essential. Think about your own school memories. The lessons you actually remember probably are not the worksheets. They are the field trip, the science experiment that exploded a little too much, the teacher who told a story instead of reading from a textbook. Your brain, even now, lights up for the ancient method far more than the modern one. This is not nostalgia. It is neuroscience meeting anthropology in a very specific place. Studies on memory consistently show that humans retain narrative information, stories with characters, conflict, and emotion far more effectively than they retain isolated facts. Your ancestors did not design storytelling around the fire because it was charming. They designed it that way because it worked, and because it still works on you today, whether or not you ever sat in front of an actual flame. So what does this mean for the world you live in now? It means every time you learn something through doing, through trial, through a story instead of a slide, you are reconnecting with nearly 200,000 years of human learning history. It means the discomfort you might feel sitting through a long lecture is not laziness. It is your ancestral brain quietly asking for play, for participation, for a story it can hold on to. Modern education is slowly noticing this. Apprenticeship programs are expanding. Project-based learning is replacing rote memorization in many schools. Educators increasingly design lessons around stories and hands-on problem-solving rather than pure repetition. In a strange looping way, education may be drifting back toward the fire circle it left behind 12,000 years ago. You will probably never sit beside an actual fire to learn how to track an animal or weave a basket. But the next time you learn best by doing, by failing safely, by hearing a story instead of reading a bullet point, remember what is actually happening inside your skull. You are not adapting to some modern teaching trend. You are returning home.